Hi, Soman.
Hi. Did you hear that Anna Wintour chose the new editor of Vogue and it wasn't me?
I did. I did. And I actually saw a joke where so many people were like, who, what a flop, like, who is this person? And the response was, do you know the staff at Vogue? Like, it wasn't going to be Dua Lipa.
No. No, but it was Candice Bergen's daughter, which is the only thing that weirdly gives me confidence in it because I feel
I
like Candice
know.
Bergen would have been the greatest editor of Vogue of all time.
Yes. And her father is also like a super experimental French film director. So
Oh
I
my
saw
God.
there was this pushback immediately on TikTok of someone posting a picture of her basically being like, what in the 1950s, like fresh prairie hell is this woman? Like basically judging because she was wearing like a plain dress.
Yeah.
And there was a backlash to the backlash of people being like, if you think she's a conservative, like trad wife, you have no idea who this woman is or who her parents are, and like normalize not bothering with what people wear in the corporate environment and trying to be like, why isn't she wearing something that would be better for I don't
For
know
Vogue,
what, as
whatever.
opposed to a New York office?
I thought it was going to be a gay. I was all excited for some like slinky gay man to parade it and to be the new Anna
Stanley
Wintour.
Tucci in Devil Wears Prada.
She looks perfectly nice, and I feel like that's part of the problem. Anyway.
I think Anna Wintour probably wanted an American with a European pedigree, and that
Mm.
really fits the bill. But also, we must add, neither of us know anything about the inner workings of Vogue.
I
So
just hope she
let's
turns out to be a demon child because I feel like the editor of Vogue, that's part of the whole thing. Anyway, on
let's
that
shift
note.
towards what we do know. Hi, I'm Victoria Aveyard, author of The Red Queen and the Realmbreaker series.
And I'm Soman Shinani, author of the School for Good and Evil series, and welcome to Plot Twist, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the biggest swings in our careers. Victoria's Tempest, her very first novel for adults, an epic pirate fantasy.
And Soman's Young World, a red-hot young adult political thriller. Each week, we go behind the curtain of our creative process and give you our hot takes on thorny issues in publishing and entertainment. We answer your mailbag questions, plus we pitch plot twists that we want to see in real life.
And today's hot topic, what a question. Would you rather be a flop or a fraud?
Mm,
This is a good one.
I know. We go a lot of places with this one, too.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have some fun. But speaking of fun, let's talk about what happened during our weeks. In our first segment, Theme of the Week, where each week we're going to come up with a word or phrase that encapsulates our week on and off the page. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
No, I want you to go first.
Okay.
I feel like I always build off of your themes.
Okay, let's see. So my theme for the week, I came up with the phrase debuting again. And I've been thinking about why the last 2 years have felt like such a transition. And it's an obvious answer. And it's because I wrote School for Good and Evil for 10 years. It was 6 books, 2 prequels, the movie. And that's the whole world I lived in. And there was a ceiling for how successful, those books could be, but also a floor. I was in no flop territory.
Right.
Speaking of, the flop episode. It was a safe zone. And with Young World and the fantasy book I'm writing now, I'm essentially starting over. Like I'm a debut again. And nothing about Young World is like School for Good and Evil. And I basically blew up my career to chase this vision. And so now that the book is done and that sort of creative march is finished, there's sort of this panic. And we've sort of alluded to it on your end too, with Tempest. It's this feeling of like, oh shit, people have to read this now. How do I convince people to read it? And I have to remind myself that I feel even stronger about this book than I did that first School for Good and Evil, but it was a different environment back then. And even though this is I think the best thing I've ever written, and it definitely has the widest appeal and, potentially the widest audience, that doesn't guarantee success. And, what I can do is kind of get out there in a way that I haven't for the last 6 or 7 years and really hit the ground hard in this kind of son of an Indian, salesman sort of way and try to get it in readers' hands. But we're going to talk about a lot of this in industry nonsense, how to have that kind of balls to the wall mentality of getting readers for a new book without compromising your integrity and yourself and what you feel is appropriate for the book. So, half the job is the writing now, but half the job is everything else in order to actually make it a success. So anyway, that's where I am. I feel like a debut. Where are you?
Well, I was going to say that's also a really interesting place to be fear-wise, and I'm not sure anyone who's not written a book or gone through the traditional publishing process really understands, like, your book is done, and
Mm.
now you basically get to sit on pins and needles for almost a year to wait to see how it's gonna land. And that is so, so strange and odd, and you're almost in this it is a little bit of a safe limbo because if something's gonna drop, you don't know it yet, but if something's gonna fly, you don't know it yet either.
Mhm.
And I know we've definitely had those moments where we wish we could go back in time and tell ourselves it's all gonna be okay. The book's gonna find its audience. Enjoy this time. But obviously, you can't do that in life. But there's almost like a whole episode in itself of how we stand on the precipice of the uncertain again and again with like every book or every new jump forward. Even if everything looks okay from the outside looking in, everyone who sees our social media presence thinks, oh, they're just happily like chugging along, writing their books, um, without realizing that sort of nothing is guaranteed in
No,
this job.
creatively,
Yeah,
financially, everything we don't
right.
know. Funny story, and I think you'll get a kick out of this. For the last 2 years, I've moderated Rebecca Kwong's events in St.
Oh, yeah.
Louis.
How did that go?
She's the best. I mean, I just think
Did you
she's
pronounce the book properly?
catabasis. I
See?
definitely, I definitely had to check with her. So I did Yellowface, and then I did the catabasis launch
Great.
for her, and I just think she's amazing. Like I think we could have her here and talk to her for 4 hours. So maybe I'll try to convince her.
She is one
But
of those people who, when she speaks, I think, a couple episodes ago, I was like, wow, half the population is stupid. And then she speaks, and I'm like, I'm in that half.
what I was telling her is I said, I remember David Letterman talking about how he was always like, ho hum, go to work, interview another useless celebrity. And then he was like, and then Madonna would sit in the chair once every few years and he'd be like, back straight. Get
Yeah, you
yourself
got to be on
organized.
your game.
Get your shit together. That's how I felt. The thing that's interesting about Rebecca, and I pointed this out to the audience, both times, is she has no interest in talking about the book that's coming out. She did not want to talk about Yellowface. She did not want to talk about Catabasis. She wanted to talk about the book that she was working on. So she
Hmm.
talked about Catabasis when we were doing Yellowface, and then she talked about Taipei's story on Monday. And so it was this idea of like, she's already way past this book.
Yes.
And
And
she's
that
so
is the
formal
life
about
cycle
that.
of a book, too, is by the time we're on tour for something, we're usually working on something else and very much imbued in something else.
Hmm.
So it can be hard to switch over. But I think she's also done something that a lot of us strive to do, which is she has sort of become the brand itself.
Hmm.
People aren't looking for, oh, I want the next book in the XYZ series. They're saying, I want the next Rebecca book. And that's what we all aspire to be, is to have ourselves, our name be the thing that carries readers on. Like what you're talking about, with a series, at the very least, you have that floor of the
Yes.
readers.
Yes.
You're hoping to bridge the gap between the book you're writing and you and bring those readers along with you. And I
And I
think
think
she's
that
done that very well.
and I think it's why these books first are super important because she's writing her eighth right now.
Hmm.
And they're, except for Poppy War, they're really not connected.
Right.
Whereas with us, we're pretty early in actually delivering new
Yes.
things.
And there's something to be said for not necessarily being pigeonholed, but also having your sort of like zone that you work well in, that your readers will like. And you, especially, even more so than what I'm doing with Tempest, you're definitely stepping outside the zone of comfort that
Mm.
you've had, the zone of familiarity that you've had.
Tell us about your theme.
Again with the panics. My theme is the rising tide. I am in
Mm.
a weird spot again where I'm waiting for my draft to come back. And now it sort of feels like a wave is about to crash on me.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, I've got my back against a very firm wall. So it's not even like I can swim with the wave. All I can do is try and withstand it. So I leave for my European tour exactly 2 weeks. And I don't have the draft back yet. And my goal was to have the draft turned around this last edit before we go to copy edits before I leave.
Mm.
So I know to get that done the next 2 weeks, hopefully 2 weeks. Like I really want the draft to come today. I know the next 2 weeks are going to be pretty painful trying to get the draft turned around and sort of also just sorting out all of the usual tour prep and the anxiety and the
Mm.
planning that comes with those long stretches of work travel, especially in foreign countries. It's not an ideal situation for me because I'm a person who plans out everything to a T to try and like manufacture the ideal
Mm.
circumstances under which I can thrive and work. So I almost feel like I'm in a little bit of exposure therapy
Mhm.
right now where I can't control when the draft comes. I can only control what I do with the time I get to have and how I handle the pain in that window of time, which is unfortunately getting smaller and smaller, which is just going to compound the pain.
I have
So
lots of
that's where I'm
questions. I
at.
have lots of questions. Question number 1 is, I mean, you won't know until you see the notes, right? In terms of
Right.
what the minimum
And
amount of
this is
time, you know?
still in terms of the traditional publishing industry, the schedules we are on, you know, still pretty fast in terms
Mhm.
of editor turnarounds. And we just have some walls on the publishing
Mm.
schedule and or at least like moments we have to hit because certain dates are locked and cannot be moved. So that means certain dates are also locked and cannot be moved. And that's just where we're at.
Mm. And then the other question I guess I have is there room? Like, can you work on it on the plane to Europe?
Mm,
Can you like, is there a way to sort of
the
build in?
first day, like obviously it's a long flight, but it's a
Mhm.
night flight.
Mm.
So I was like,
Yeah,
I was
totally.
hoping to sleep.
Yes, yes, which you should.
And then when I get there in the afternoon and I have that afternoon off to myself in like an airport hotel. So obviously I can work there. And then I go to a festival and festivals are kind
It's
of an all
tough.
day thing. And then my husband joins me and we have like a day off in Copenhagen. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna say
yeah,
where
yeah.
because we haven't announced. I have day off in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
And so it's like built in that he was coming with me and we were gonna have those days as like our
Yeah,
vacation
of
days. So I'm
course.
like, shit, he shouldn't have even come if I was gonna have to do this. And we thought we wouldn't. So we're in a weird spot, but I'm gonna do everything I can. And from what I understand, this draft edit is also including line edits.
Okay. So you won't know until you get it.
I know.
Once you get it, then you can start to, I think your
I
brain
know.
will start to figure out, okay, what's the situation? You might be able to 2 week it to just get
I
it all
know I'm
done.
gonna be working this weekend. I mean, obviously I gotta have it before this weekend, but I know
Yeah.
I'm gonna be working this weekend. I
Yeah.
know I'm gonna be working pretty much every day. I've already told my husband, like, hey, as soon as this draft hits, like I'm going in the hole.
Yeah,
So
you
this
have
might
to
be the
tell
last day I
you
grocery
need to tell
shop.
him if you want to see the Little Mermaid and have our whatever it is, oysters on the I don't know what they serve in Copenhagen, whatever Danish is no, that's yeah, Danish.
Yes,
Danish
Denmark.
oysters or whatever it is.
Danish oysters, gross.
It sounds
Um,
terrible.
yes, he is actually very, very good about when I have to step back from real life. He's
Mm.
really good about let me cook dinner, let me do the dishes, let me deal with the dog. You do what you need to do. So that's nice. He's only just nagging, like, hey, did you work out today? Did you go for a walk? Have you seen the sun? Maybe you should go see the sun.
I do that to Scott sometimes, but I do it. It's so funny. It's the complete ironic opposite. Where I tell
Yeah.
him he's so locked in on the farm, where I'm like, maybe it would be nice if you went to the pool or the Y, or like got away from this like
Yeah.
particular, The other question I had, and this is so specific, but tell me if you understand. I feel like part of a girl's job on tour is like you have to
Mm,
look good and like
yeah.
whereas like I can work all night on something in the middle of tour, show
Yeah.
up looking like a fucking hot mess. I wear the same outfit on tour every single day, like I'm Steve
It's
Jobs wearing a
garbage.
uniform. Like I can get away with everything. And I
It
feel like you can't as a girl.
No, and even down to especially when you do a tour in Europe, they're very clear, like, you're gonna be on trains, and no, we will not get a taxi from the train station to your hotel. It's a 10-minute walk. You're gonna walk it, and you're like, "Cool." Dudes show up with a backpack. I'm
Yep.
gonna have, at the very least, a carry-on, and I'm
Yeah.
doing everything I can not to have to worry about a check bag, and luckily, my husband's coming with me to help me, but under
Mm.
normal circumstances, I am a 5'1" woman traveling alone. And then there's also like, and then we're gonna walk to the bookstore, and you're like, cool, like I'm in a dress and heels. Like now I gotta figure out that situation. And do not get me started on how fucking sexist the liquid rules are, not just at European airports, but in America, at least there are ways around it if you have pre check. But in the European airports, the idea that men and women have the same
Mm.
ass liquid requirements and I got to put my deodorant in that little Ziploc bag, bullshit.
I'm with you. I'm with
That's my
you.
rant.
And also because you have to probably wake up an hour earlier than
I
the guys do. And
do.
I get to
I
go to
got
the
to
gym for
sleep.
that hour.
I got to sleep in my hair wrap shit. I got to moisturize. I have to look alive. I have to look, some version of cute. And men just do not have that same
Yeah.
expectation.
And also, I think it's because I think in general, people tend to post their photos with female authors just a lot more for some reason. I
I don't know, and it depends on the author.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
There
true.
are some male authors where they're posting the photos.
It's true. It's very true. Okay, let's go to our next segment.
Our goals. What are your goals for this week, and how did you do on last
Okay,
week?
how did I do on last week's goals? Okay, number one, it was finish chapter 9 and send 1 to 9 to my editor to get the first real deep notes on the book so
Mm.
far. She gave me that sort of big global note about just slowing things down slightly. And so that's what I'm working on now before she really gets deep into giving me some actionable notes before I keep building the world. And I'm almost there. I finished 9. I just got to work on 1 through 9 together. So hopefully this week.
I hate that this is your edit process, but I see how helpful it is to especially to get a note like that so early of you have more room to breathe,
Hmm.
you have more room in the draft to get that note 100,000 words in versus 10,000 words in, incredible.
I would be totally screwed. It was just this kind of feeling that she was giving of like, this is a very like sensual, luscious
Mhm.
book. Like take the time. Like don't
Yeah.
rush through it. So I felt like I just had to get the young world pace kind
It's
of
a
out of
good
my
note and
system.
it's a super helpful note because I feel like the danger of getting notes that early in the way that you do is you might get notes that just aren't helpful at that
Yes.
time. So that's a skilled editor right there to know like this is something that's actually going to help the process
And she
versus.
even just alluded to it very like
Mm,
gently. So, whereas like, Pete, my agent, was mentioning, he was like, Young World is like, the way he described the book is he described it as pop rock candy. And I was like,
ooh.
that's the best description because it's just like fast and like just exploding in your face in every
Hmm.
direction. And it's neon, like it's quick. And so just sometimes when you are working on something new, you just need someone to either tell you speed up or slow down. And with Young World, I needed an editor to be like, you're still in School for Good and Evil world, like go faster. And here it was, well, you can, come back down to a different pace. So anyway, that'll go to the editor soon. And then I had all those different events this week. I still have a few more to go.
Mm.
I did RF Kwong's event. I'm going to moderate a bunch of authors coming up: Marie Lu, Ryan LaSala,
Oh,
Angie Thomas.
wonderful.
So it's going to be one after another in St. Louis. Like that's a good part about people coming through St. Louis because we have an amazing bookstore. Is that I get to see all my friends.
Oh, I know. I want to have St. Louis on all of my book tours now
It's
just so
great.
I can have a little visit with you. But also, I think St. Louis, or at least the crowd that we had last time, amazing.
They do a
Oh my God.
phenomenal job.
Longest,
Phenomenal
one of
job.
the longest lines I've ever had in America.
But that's because
Fantastic.
you talk to everybody also. Where you can't
Well,
talk to
people in the
Midwesterners.
Midwest are so friendly. My New England slash Los Angeles ass is like, why do
I
you want to speak to me?
I told Rebecca, I was like, do not, under any circumstances, start conversations.
You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, I
I
forgot to
was
tell
there for
you.
3
I
hours.
forgot to tell you. And then the
But it was
last goal
delightful.
was to announce that I'm doing the SmackDown with my Taylor Swift inspired cover photo. I wanted to just
Mhm.
tell you the story behind it, which was
Please.
okay, so I got a sequin green shirt and I was gonna get in the bathtub at the farm. And I told my partner we had to go to Walmart to get mascara and eyeshadow. And he's like, you cannot walk into the Walmart in Pike County, Missouri, as in, first of all, as a brown boy, and then wander up to the makeup aisle and buy mascara. It's just not gonna work. I said, it'll be
Why? What would
fine, it'll be
happen?
fine. It's Pike County, Missouri. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
They're not good things. Anyway,
Not
I did
good
it anyway.
things.
I just went in there
Good
and the
for
woman
you.
the woman
I'll
at the
come
cash
fight them
register,
for
she was
you.
like, "Hon, are these yours?"
Yeah,
I
what
said,
of it?
"Yeah, yeah, they are mine." So I got them. Then I went back to the farm, and here's the ironic part. So I put it on. I came out to get in the bathtub, and Scott's like, "You didn't put enough." He's like, "You're not doing
That's
it right.
that's it,
That's not what it should
Scotty.
look like." So anyway, he took the photo. He, managed the whole thing. So he did a great job. So anyway, that was the goals for last week. Everything under control. Goals for this week. Now we're ramping up towards the Young World pre-order launch and cover reveal. And nowadays there's like a lot to it because you've got where are you going to do the reveal? You've got sort of the videos, the
Mhm.
photos, the animatics, the teaser trailer. Like there's a lot of like mini cottage industry around kind of revealing a new book. and it's all
Mhm.
converging on one launch date. So that's coming up, and we're starting to figure out all the pieces. My second goal is probably to start chapter 10 of the fantasy novel once I turn in everything to the editor. The last thing is kind of finish the Dog and Pony Show this week and try to get back to that writing cave where
Oh
that's
my
all I
god.
do. So
So, you talk about the cottage industry around launching a book and all of the extra work. Are you hiring an outside or like a freelance PR agency?
probably, I did for the School for Good and Evil
Mhm.
movie, and I feel like it was so helpful in sort of framing a new thing. Still a ways off from needing that because
Mhm.
that's usually closer to when the book comes out. So I think usually if you have an independent publicist, which I did have for the first School for Good and Evil, and then I had for the movie, usually do that about 3 months before it comes out. This for the
We're doing
pre,
6 months for Tempest.
but see, I think you need longer now because
Mm,
in the old days there was a path, there was like a tried and true strategy that they just had to
right.
execute. I think now you need someone to come on earlier and just kind of flood the zone in a lot of
A
different
little bit.
creative ways. So I think that'll be a little closer to the launch, but for
Mhm.
the pre-order and cover reveal, that all the different things are done kind of in-house with
Yes.
me and the publisher. How about you?
Yes,
What
but
were your
you do hire a lot outside the publisher to get like that those great photo shoots, especially of you, that kind of work.
I work with at least 3 or 4 different designers, on just the visuals and because I want things to look exactly how I want, and then I'm also running everything by the publisher, like
You are
everything.
like the only author who does that.
It's because I love it. I
You
love
do, and
it's
you
like
love
directing a
control.
movie. I love control. And to me it is. It's directing. It's why I sort of went away from I always wanted to be a film director and now have completely lost interest in doing it because I feel like I get to do it
You do.
through the books. But you tell us everything about your goals
Okay.
last week and this week.
Okay. So my first goal last week was I want the draft back.
Oh boy.
I sound ridiculous at this point, but the draft isn't back yet,
Mm.
and I'm hoping it comes today and I can just kind of jump right in. I've prepped everyone in my life to be like, "Hey, I'm leaving in 2 weeks and I'm going to be turning around a draft. You may not hear from me." Husband is all on board with that. My parents, who are in town for those final 2 weeks and then I won't see them until Christmas, are sort of like, "But we still wanna hang out with you." And I'm like, "Ah, I need to work, and I'm so sorry it's landing this way, but we'll get it together, won't we? We'll have
This
some
whole thing
dinners."
sounds like when I was in love with Adam Strobel and I just texted him all the time and I would never get a text back. And the more you sort of looked at your phone, the more the text would never come
Yes,
back.
yes, and I hate to be a nag. I hate it, and it's like if this tour wasn't happening, we would have this wouldn't be as much of an issue
Yeah.
as it is. But because the tour is happening and unfortunately, like, you really can't work the way you need to work, um, on the road, or at least I can't, especially just the way that things are falling. It's just not gonna work.
Mhm.
Uh, we have to figure out, better ways to do this. And this is something a lot of authors talk about is, um, the way our schedules unfold is we don't have all the pieces. We
Mm.
don't see the whole road. And me either asking for or like nagging for the dates is just me trying to see the whole road so that I know where my points of focus need to be
Yeah,
and when I can
100%.
flip over to other things. It's like I'm not saying you got to work faster. I'm just saying I got to know, okay, this 4 weeks is for you to take with something else. That's
Yeah.
all I need,
Yeah.
as opposed to it'll come next week and then it doesn't and you're just like, "Well, what am I doing here?"
Yep.
My second goal from last week was to get the Dragon book synopsis done. That's somewhat happening. I'm still noodling and finagling.
Mm.
I worked a lot on the map, which helps me visualize the
Mm.
world and also the scope of the world, which then sort of dictates the scope of the story too. I was also working on drawing some symbols from Tempest for copyright purposes.
Mm.
My agent Susie is very wise and very forward thinking, and she encouraged me to copyright a few pieces of sort of key art that feature pretty heavily in Tempest, like a certain pirate flag, that kind of thing.
Mm.
So I own them down the line if we ever think about like merch or licensed art. And we did this with Red Queen way back in the day before that first book came out. And it ended up serving us well, just knowing we had the license to certain things. So this is what I did. And I first I thought, okay, I'm going to have to commission somebody to do this.
Mm,
But I was like, I'll take a crack at it myself. And I ended up having a great time doing it. And it was quite a wonderful experience, just like on my iPad and Procreate designing
I
pirate
love
flags. I
it.
was like,
I
what
love
a
it.
time.
Yeah.
Who knew this would be it? And my last goal was no lighting a pumpkin candle until September 1st. And I would love to announce I have not lit a pumpkin candle yet,
Mm.
but I have consumed a pumpkin beverage.
Oh, boo.
Uh, my husband is really into like espresso and pulls like really great artisan espresso. And he watched me put pumpkin syrup into this cappuccino he made me and just shook his head.
Pumpkin. What? Pumpkin. That's worse than a pumpkin candle.
Oh,
Pumpkin
I
syrup.
know. Oh,
Ugh.
I know. I know. I know.
All right. What are your goals for this week?
All of my thoughts are on this
Oh,
draft.
God.
I'm just like, please, please, please. But also, I need it. And so I'm trying to cram everything I would otherwise need to do before it
Mm.
comes back into this time. I don't know. I know I have anxiety issues and I have control issues. And this is all me trying to make things happen in the order they need to happen. And that's not how life works. Whatever. Also, I'm getting together all of my appointments for like hair, unibrow, make sure I'm human before I get on the road for 3.5 weeks. I have my packing lists. I have my to-do list. I have lists on top of lists. I need lists to check off for almost everything, lest I stay awake and make the lists in my
Mm.
head. And I feel like any psychiatrist, if they listen to this podcast, is going to reach out with some advice for
I
me.
love this. You have lists. I have no lists. I just
I
kind
don't know
of
how
like,
you keep it all
I
straight.
don't know. But I assume my brain will tell me when something has to happen.
I have to write it all down because it pops away. I know if I have recalled something twice, because sometimes, you're out and you have a story idea and you don't write
Mm.
it down. And I'm like, shit, I got to remember that thing. And then a couple days later, I remember it again. If I'm able to recall it again without having written it down, I know it's pretty
It's a
locked in
good
my
one. It's a
brain.
good one.
Yeah.
I do. I was just thinking to myself, like, the difference between us now that we're uber professionals versus in our 20s. Like, I remember that
Uber.
feeling of like spending 24 hours a day in love with a boy or wanting something like, and you're just like waiting for this thing to come back. But it was always in my like personal life. And like now it's like always about the draft. When is this
Mm-hmm.
thing coming back? Like, when is, the editor sending this? When is the marketing team sending this? Like, we've become
Yeah,
that.
I know. And we're a lot more, again, we have obviously many moving parts on our side of things, but it's just us. The draft is just with us. And then on the editorial side of things, there were so many other moving pieces and
Mm.
people and things going on. And it's just trying to balance it all. You
It's
can
gonna
have
come
your
back.
ideal.
And I'm telling you, by next episode, you will most
If
certainly.
it's not back by next episode, like
We'll both
you're
dye our
going to
hair.
see me putting my head through a wall.
We're both gonna dye our hair blonde if it's not back by
Oh
next
my
episode.
God. I think we'd just go bald. Our hair would just fall out.
On that note, we will be back for some bald truths in industry nonsense.
Terrible segue.
This week's industry nonsense is sponsored by First Draft Pro, the novel writing app that helps you sustain your creative flow.
Go from first spark to a finished draft with First Draft Pro.
And we are back with Industry Nonsense, where we dive into thorny issues in art and publishing that other people are afraid to touch. And our specially crafted question for this week: would you rather be a flop or a fraud? Do you want to tell us what that question means?
Yeah. So it's a many pieces to this, but we also debated calling this like the scammer episode or how to separate the con from the artist, because frankly, publishing seems riddled with scammers preying on authors and readers, whoever, and it only gets worse with every passing day. Um, my DMs, which I don't monitor very often, for this very reason, are flooded with, "Hi, author. I see you write books. What an inspiration. Would you like help getting your books to an audience? Or would you like help editing or marketing your books? Or would you send me a book for free and I will review it for you?" They're very easily recognizable form letters that scammers are just like fire hosing into the DMs of anyone with author in their social platform bio. And we've all seen it. And most of us know to ignore them outright. And again, I don't give much thought to my DMs because I create a barrier of entry for anyone making professional inquiries. My bios all say, for inquiries, email my agent, and I have her email very clearly listed. So I know anyone reaching out to me in my DMs to do business is either a scammer
Mm,
or 9 times out of 10, like, not worth my professional time.
mm,
Because especially if it's someone I don't know, because the bare minimum research was not done. So it's just not, this is not gonna work. It takes a bit of pressure off. It gives me one less thing to monitor. I recommend it. What is more concerning are the less obvious scams and grifts. I also get a lot of new writers asking if I've worked with company XYZ who is claiming to have worked with me. And I think it's pretty obvious this is bullshit, but I've also got 12 years under my belt in this industry. So I know what bullshit looks like a little bit. And I can only say you have to trust your gut and also trust your eyes. I will go to the websites people ask me about, and I'll say, like, this is an AI book photo. This is an AI book cover. This is all chat GPT generated. This is misspelled. This phone number isn't real. Like, it's very obvious. It should be very obvious. And especially if the offer seems too good to be true, if the chat bot is claiming that big bestsellers worked with them, if you can't Google anything concrete about this company, it's garbage. It's not for you. They're just going to take your money. I did have a wonderful time messaging with a scam publishing company who claimed to run my social media. And I pretended to be an interested, inspiring author, let them wax poetic about how much they do for me, Victoria Aveyard. And then I told them, well, I am Victoria Aveyard and I have no idea who you are. And I
mm.
got to watch the chat response kind of scramble. It was a lovely little rush of joy in the darkness of knowing these companies can't really be stopped because they are not based in the US. And the only thing we can really do is arm aspiring authors with information so that they can ignore these bullshit artists entirely. And what does that armament look like? Well, it's us, it's other authors. So many of us have open DMs and comments and accounts where we're happy to answer questions. Bridget Kemmerer does a fantastic job of this. She is fully open to anyone at any stage of their career and happy to answer your questions. Or there's plenty of authors who maybe they don't have that level of interaction going on, but they've got Substacks and various content with advice for aspiring authors. That is a huge resource. I beg you, please use it. Another great resource is something called Writer Beware. This is a long-standing, well-trusted website that has been helping authors navigate the minefield that is publishing for years and years and years. And they have lists of known scammers and grifters, lists of fake editors and agents and publishers. Definitely worth looking up if you have questions or if something feels fishy to you. Now, for that big question, flop or fraud, that flips it on its head. It's not the scammers and the grifters looking to take advantage of authors. It's authors
Mm.
running a scam or a grift, be it a generative AI developed book that they're selling with like a generative AI cover, or just plain false advertising through pity or cringe or rage bait. Be it an author who, like, quote, made it, who's now selling courses so you can make it too. Now, it must be said before we go deeper there, an author who markets the hell out of a book that just doesn't connect with you, that's not scamming. But if the marketing includes falsehoods, now we're sort of getting into the weeds. And they are weeds that seem to be spreading and, of course, are all rooted in this rapidly expanding, I must succeed now, I must make money now mentality that drives a lot of our conversations on this podcast.
I think you covered so many kind of like interesting threads, but I really want to focus on this author one because I think it's
Hmm.
the one that's sort of growing. And I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Because I think there's this fundamental misunderstanding of the role that online culture is playing in book reading um, at the heart of it. And okay, so let's rewind to the 2010s when you and I started, and the way that
Whew.
books got buzz back then was pretty old school. Your publisher would alert accounts that they had like a special lead title, and they'd print a lot of ARCs or advanced reader copies, which were physical galleys, maybe 3 or 4 thousand, sometimes even 5,000. And these would go all over the place 8 to 10 months before. And little by little, the book would start to get buzz. I'm 100% confident this is how Red Queen like started its
I
journey.
remember it was showing the cover on Epic Reads. That's when we first got that, like, really excited bump.
And then people probably started reading the ARC,
Mhm.
and people would then talk about, receiving the ARC. They would post on online message boards like Goodreads, and it would start to feel like there was this secret in the publishing community that was about to explode to the outside world. But it all started with the book's quality, people who had actually read the book. And no
Mhm.
matter how much you marketed it, if the book sucked, the ARCs would tell the story. And eventually it would bomb. Maybe it would have a good first week from pre-orders, but it would in no way, shape, or form actually end up to be a hit if it was bad, because the run-up would kill it, right?
Mhm.
Things are different now because there's a sense that you can cheat the system with online virality, because
Mm.
publishers aren't really printing that many, ARCs anymore. They're quite rare actually. And the system is so flooded with content that even if they do, the recipients just kind of put them somewhere in their house and don't have time to read them. There's just too much going on. So the sustained buzz of a big book being read early is just hard to build based on the
Mhm.
quality of the book, unless you're like a really established author who everybody's waiting for the arc. So I'm actually kind of facing that challenge now with Young World, which I kind of alluded to earlier, which is, me and Random House, we fully believe in this product and we're printing an enormous amounts of arcs into color. Like we're spending the money to do this like huge thing. But we're trying to use the old school system of building buzz by getting enough people to read them. And the question is, can that still work? Or do we need to actually get sticky and try to create some online viral moment at the same time as a substitute for the actual book and book quality? Because that's the only thing that will actually work. So that's why I think this question is phrased exactly right, which is whether you'd rather be a flop or a fraud, because I want the book to succeed on its own merits versus just manufacturing some chaos around it.
Right.
But at the same time, if that chaos gets people reading and I believe in the book's quality, is it then worth it? So I'll tell you a funny story about School for Good and Evil, which is it had a slow start until enough kids started reading it and then spreading rumors at school that there was a lesbian kiss at the end. And every time I'd go to a school, the books would be like, it's the lesbian book, it's the lesbian book.
That's
And
so
then,
funny. You were branded the lesbian book.
oh my God, and in 2013, so it was a big
Yeah.
deal. And parents started revolting, and all of a sudden it was selling 5,000 copies a week. And, the Mormon church was talking about it. It was a lot going on. And there's certainly no like lesbian kiss at the end of the School for Good and Evil. And the whole
Mm.
brouhaha was totally made up. But in that case, buzz plus rumors plus lack of an online ecosystem to debunk them helped
Mhm.
us, because the quality of the book was actually building new fans, amongst these curious readers. So I think a lot of authors, including us, are struggling with
Yeah.
this problem, which is yielding a bit of desperation. And I remember at one point, Twitter had an author mention that no one was coming to her signing, and she posted a picture of the very empty bookstore.
Oh.
And it was the OG of these. And it
So it
led
was
to
the real one.
the real one, the real one. And it led to an outpouring of sympathy and thousands of orders to support her. And then it led to the copycats, right? Hence the
Ugh.
birth of pity marketing from that one
Ugh.
photo, or bemoaning the injustice of low sales, or not being a lead title, or the fact their book got lost in the shuffle, or COVID, or any number of reasons, implicitly and explicitly asking in a GoFundMe kind of way to buy their book to make up for the shortfall. This on its face isn't necessarily like a terrible thing. Like if it
Mhm.
works, it works. But it's deceptive because even if it does work, it's not repeatable. And
Right.
publishers are going to know that, and you're going to figure that out fair enough, very soon. A gimmick can only go so far unless
Mhm.
the book is so good that it takes the initial spike and then runs with it, right? And maybe that's what it all boils down to. And this is where I'm at, which is deep in your heart, if you know the book is a worthy read and will catch on, then maybe you do have to do the song and dance and do
Mhm.
whatever you need to get
Yeah.
people to pick it up. If you know your book is a cash grab and, even worse, was written with AI or whatever, then, and you're DMing Victoria with, your lusty guide to wizard sex PDF asking for a
There's a
review,
market.
then I think you're fully in fraud territory, and it's not
Mhm.
that you're afraid of a flop, you're just frauding your way towards sales.
Yes.
So that's where we are. And I
I
think
know.
there's no
A
answer, of
and I
course.
think, one, it's important to know there's a spectrum of sort of the attempted frauds. And on one end is straight up the people who are click farming on
Mm,
Amazon self-published lists and are literally putting up garbage, like, and just getting pennies from the page turns, and they're paying
mm,
bots to do it. That exists. All the way up to someone who really believes in their book and stages something thinking it's going to be a good springboard for that book. But like you said, if the book behind the viral moment isn't good, you're not going to be able to repeat that. It's not going to snowball the way you want it to.
I'm
And
thinking of like, I think I've mentioned this before. Taken by a pterodactyl, which was number one on the Kindle.
but
And
I feel like those, like the again, we're going to talk about the JD Vance couch romance.
Mm.
Those exist in a different space. Like those are almost in the satire space. I don't feel like those are particularly just a cash grab.
But you're
They're
buying
definitely,
them to read them?
I don't know.
Mm.
But I feel like the people are buying them. I don't know. I think every person buying it's got a different intention.
Yes,
You
yes,
know, maybe
yes.
you're going to have a funny read along at like a bachelorette party,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
maybe you're supporting the author because you know them. I don't know. But I can invent a ton of different scenarios in my head, so I know there's even more than what I
Mm.
can
And it
invent.
is what it is on face value. So it's not
Yeah,
fraudulent. You know,
right.
taken by a pterodactyl is taken by a
Yes.
pterodactyl.
Yes, that's the other. Yes, I love when things know what they are and sort of revel in what they are and are
Hmm.
very proud of what they are. And I feel like we have a lot of issues with different things being stigmatized and a lot of people pushing back on the idea that, like, oh, don't tell me I'm reading smut, but it's like, but you are, and that's okay.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Why are I'm not bringing the stigma into it anymore, like you are, by saying the thing that you're reading isn't the thing that you're reading. I feel like there's something very interesting there. And I'm all for destigmatizing whatever it is you want to read and being clear and upfront about what it is you're either
Mm.
reading or writing. Because if you're not going to reach the audience that actually wants the thing.
But
That's another thing.
if you're selling smut and it's not
Mhm.
smut, then we're into
Right.
fraudulent territory because people are going to
Absolutely.
figure it out, you know?
And I think I try, especially with Tempest, I'm trying to be very, very clear, or especially when we can really start talking about the content. I don't want people going in expecting something they're not going to
Mm.
get, or um, the vice versa, whatever that may be. I'm like trying to calculate in my head what the vice versa would have been.
Yeah, yeah.
But we always want to give the audience exactly what they want, and a lot of that is either you just knowing what audience you're writing to, and then also knowing what audience you're marketing to.
Mm.
The For me, the frustration comes from knowing a certain kind of audience would love this thing. I just don't know how to reach them.
Mm.
So to your question about what we're doing it the old school way, we really want to flood the zone with arcs and get them out to key accounts and get the placement that we used to do like 10 years ago. But also, should we be thinking about viral marketing as well? I think yes, largely because I think you got the stones to back it up.
Mm.
So we kind of got to, play the game. I don't fault anybody who is playing the game, but I fault it when there's like a known fraudulence,
Yeah.
when there is a known you're creating a narrative that doesn't exist. And that's always annoying to me when you're like, "Wait, this person is talking about the struggle." And then you're like, "There was no struggle."
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Or my personal favorite is, I've been a writer for 20 years and the person is 25.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, you haven't. Let's start from maybe like age 18. I feel
Yeah,
like if
yeah,
you're going to say I've been a writer for this many years, or I've been honing my craft or studying or whatever, you got to start at 18.
yeah.
Like that's it. You don't have to invent this narrative and say I've been working on this thing for 20 years when it's like you were 5 when you started.
It's the invented narrative. Yeah, and that's a
Yes.
good way to put it, the invented narrative. But these are things to all look out for as you continue your own journeys
Mhm.
as a reader or a writer. And I guess you'll see what Victoria and I settle on as our own strategies as
Ugh.
time goes on. But in the meantime, we're going to hear from you next in Reader Mailbag, so stay tuned.
Creatives run on ideas, not gym selfies, but even creative work needs a strategy for your body. Not wellness influencer BS, not fads, not gimmicks. A clear system you can fit into a busy life so you have more energy, think clearly, and build a body that lasts.
That's the Star It System by the Ready State. It's a full training system built on the foundations of health and longevity, not trends. Each week, you get real strength and conditioning sessions with clear progressions, targeted mobility to undo chair time, daily walking goals, and simple practices for sleep, nutrition, and recovery. There's a straightforward plan, video guidance, and options whether you train in a gym or at home. It's built for busy people, so it fits between drafts and deadlines without turning into another project you abandon.
If you want fewer aches and more energy, start the Star It system by the Ready State. Special $100 off discount exclusively for Plot Twist listeners. Head to thereadystate.com/starret-system. Code is Plot Twist. The link and discount code is in the show notes.
And we are back with Reader Mailbag, where we answer 2 of your questions every week. First question from Tali. Do you have any favorite couples or ships from books that inspire you? What a great question.
It is. Soman, I know you're a shipper.
But tell us about yours first, because I think you have some pretty classic ones.
I know. Well, before I get into favorites, I need to explain. I was born in the year 1990. There was a 1 in front of my birth year. I was raised in the Twilight and the Hunger Games heyday. I was an Edward girl.
Me
I was
too.
a PETA girl.
Me too.
But I was also, and this is a TV show, not a book, but I was also a Klaus and Caroline girl. So if you catch my drift on that one, do with that what you will. I will also, and this might explain even more about me. I was one of those girls who fixated on Tudor history and Elizabeth I. You know how they say you're either a horse girl or a Greek mythology girl or a Romanov girl or a Tudor history girl. I was a lot of those things. So I read a lot of Elizabeth historical fiction growing up, and I always shipped her with Robin Dudley or Robert Dudley, who was one of her closest sort of confidants, supporters, childhood friends who became a lord, blah, blah, blah. And historically, there is a basis. There is a romantic basis in history. We can debate it. But I just love that dynamic of the powerful young woman trapped between her duty and her heart, and she chooses the power.
Now we see where you came from.
But also more recently, I am a massive fan of Megan Whalen Turner's The Queen's Thief series, which has an excellent and very, very satisfying core ship with another powerful queen and the brilliant guy who is just a fool for her. I think that's my thing.
I love that because it's funny that we both converge on Edward and PETA. I was thinking about if I had to pick one crush from all of culture growing up, it was Sabrina the Teenage Witch with Melissa Joan Hart and
Harvey?
the guy who came up.
Harvey.
No, I'm wrong. It was
the RA.
It was
in college.
I think I just totally screwed this up. It was Clarissa Explains It All.
Oh my God.
And the guy who climbed up
the neighbor who climbs up her window.
The neighbor who climbed up to her window. What was his name?
It wasn't Fergus, but Fergus was a character. I think her brother was Fergus.
It sounded a lot. He had a funny name.
I did like Harvey in Sabrina though, because he was such a dope, but he was a dope for her. 100%. So I was that's okay. He's stupid.
Yeah. So anyway, I think something in there where we like the nerdy sidekick.
A little bit, but I remember back in the day thinking all of these quote ship wars, is it going to be PETA or Gale? Is it going to be Edward or is it Jacob? And I'm are we all reading the same book? The author is very clearly setting up that neither of those other guys are the one. Even from the beginning, I'm you're fighting a losing battle. What's the point? People wearing their Team Jacob t-shirts. I'm what are you doing?
The other crazy
Have you read the book?
But the whole thing is every time I saw one of those, with the triangle, I would flash to this Spanish commercial where they had the 2 different tacos and they would be ¿Por qué no los dos? Right?
Yes.
And that's what I felt you could theoretically,
You could, but again, I'm is no one else reading the actual text? Because these guys are not contenders.
No, it's very obvious. I read so much Anne Rice growing up, and I think
did.
she had a way of bringing together very unexpected couples, and I'm curious what you think about this. So when they were thrown together, it was always a shock, unlike, the books we're talking about, because she used power imbalance as the key to these ships and a reversal of the power structure. So the one who was in power never took advantage of it to actually make the moves. And then the power imbalance reversed, and the one who never had the power would take advantage of it then. So your mind was totally blown because it was just messing with all your assumptions. It reminds me a lot of Lena Wertmuller's amazing film Swept Away, which was remade by Guy Ritchie and Madonna into the worst movie ever made. About this spoiled brat client on a private yacht ending up on an island with the kind of ship boy that she abused, and him getting his revenge. So
it's Overboard without the amnesia.
So the original is an amazing movie, but start with anything by Anne Rice, especially Cry to Heaven, if you really want to experiment with some unusual ships. All right. Second question from Renee. How do you know if a literary agent
Mm.
is credible? I'm going to defer to you entirely on this, but I think you just have to, at the end of the day, straight up ask for a reference from one of their clients and do a phone call with them.
Yes, any agent who is trying to sign you should be happy to let you speak to their clients. Honestly, they should offer to do it.
Hmm.
It's not a red flag if they don't, but if you ask and they say no, that is a red flag.
Mm,
I personally have gushed to many of my agents' prospective clients about my love for Susie.
same here. Yep.
But I would also err on the side of caution in terms of like known entities. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you only consider agents who are repping authors that you already know, but I would endeavor to find agents connected to reputable agencies with known authors in their paddock. With a presence that you value in, I assume, because you're asking about agents, the traditional publishing industry. So much of trad pub agenting is based on relationships and knowledge of people. So it would be a real uphill battle to rely on an agent starting out in traditional publishing with no infrastructure around them. And a good place to look or a good place to like consider are assistants with current agents because that's
Hmm.
sort of part of the pipeline to becoming an agent yourself. A lot of times, aspiring agents will be assistants to working agents. Many of Susie's assistants, who I still adore, went on to become fabulous agents and they learn the business firsthand and they're creating all of those connections and that sort of infrastructure and scaffolding and support system. They have, veteran agents who they can ask, who they can lean on, so definitely worth also looking there because you'll have, blasts about assistants becoming agents themselves.
Yeah, what's funny is I didn't have an agent for the. We'll do a whole episode on agents at some point, but I'll tell the story of how it was the first School for Good and Evil. I didn't really have an agent, and so the book, blew up, and then I got to really have my pick of agents because I already had a success.
Mm,
So, and I went and met with everyone, and ended up choosing none of the like superstar agents, and went with a 25-year-old, and was really one of his first clients, and now he's just like a titan, of an
yes.
agent. But I did exactly what you were saying, which is I just went for the young, hungry, um, person. And I think
But
you
someone
can
who
make
is already part of the ecosystem.
absolutely, and
Yes.
and it was trying to do the homework. If you'd like to
Right.
submit a question to our reader mailbag, you're going to email it to mail@plottwistpod.net, PLOTTWISTPOD.net. Keep those questions coming.
I will
Now,
add,
oh yeah, tell me.
I will add, similar, Susie was also quite early in her career when I signed with her. She and Joe, who is the president of New Leaf Literary, had just created their own company together, and they were the only two there when I signed with Susie.
But
So there
that's what
is
I think
something,
is cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for you don't necessarily need an established agent. You just need somebody who is gonna be able to
right.
deliver
But
your
they had
work.
the background of they had worked for a larger
Mhm.
agency. They had come up together. They had a couple of authors who they now represented who were making great names for themselves and sort of blazing a path. So definitely don't just think I can only be represented by very established
Yes,
agents, but look for agents that have the sort of network and the support system that you're going to need.
100%. And we're gonna move now from publishing into the real world and talk about some plot twists
Hmm.
we want in the real world this week. Um, I just plotted out the SmackDown, kind of opening with the dance and the choreography and all that stuff. And I just, in my head, realized that like I'm just bad at choreography. It takes me weeks and weeks to learn it. I can't like get like some
You
people
do
just
it.
like
It's crazy that you do
I
this.
know, but I don't know how to do it. And Nomi Malone in Showgirls, and the movie that I've seen hundreds of times, picks it
Showgirls.
up. Like they remember they do that thing. They're like
But
dun dun
she's a
dun.
dancer.
Yeah, but
She's like
how
a
do they pick it
that's the
up? Like
point.
how do they like?
Their brains are different.
I know, but
They're people they were in dance class when they were 2 or 3 years old. I took one day of dance class when I was maybe 3, and and my mom went and got me all the nice costumes and was so excited, and I left that first dance class and I said, "Mom, I hated it. I was bored." And I never went back.
like it's like
But people train, again, Soman, like writing, they train their whole lives to be able to do that. Now, there are things you can do immediately that someone else will be like, oh my God, how come you can do that? And it's like, because you trained and you practiced and you
I
also
know,
have a
but I
skill.
want like some like chip or
You're not
ayahuasca
Nomi
pill or something.
Malone. You're not Madonna.
I need to be for this period of my life.
You've taken this onto yourself. I have no
I
sympathy.
know it's going to be a
None.
disaster. All right, tell us yours. What's your plot twist for the week?
I do love the photo that you put together for the SmackDown announcement. It is perfect in every way. I will also say I should have known you would find a way to bring
Of
Showgirls
course.
into this.
Mm.
I feel like we got to put out, that'll be some of our merch as a bingo card. You know, Soman talks about Madonna. Soman talks about something completely
Buttons
inappropriate.
for each one, and people can blow it when they're at home.
My twist, personally, I would like to stop seeing ads for prescription medications. The United States is one of the only countries on earth where that is legal. And I personally feel attacked by the barrage of Ozempic ads, no matter what screen I'm looking at, TV, phone, computer, it's all in front of me. Leave me alone, Serena. I'm happy for you, but I can't look at it anymore. I feel tortured.
I'm so fascinated that she's gone all in on it as a marketing strategy. Yeah, I mean,
Well, her
all the
husband's invested in the company.
interesting. That explains it. I just am so curious as to why she was so, using it as her big endorsement strategy. It just seems unlike her. She's quite private about everything when it comes to what she uses, you know? So, yeah, I found that fascinating. But yeah,
I'm
your
fine
plot
with
twist
her
is not
using
gonna
it for
happen.
her personal health. I think turning around and trying to push it to other people for money, that's where things get a
Yeah, it
little
gets a little
hinky.
tricky.
Yeah.
This is another plot twist of yours that is never gonna happen.
I would like to change the laws around prescription medication
Not gonna
commercials
happen.
in the
Not gonna
United
happen.
States.
What is gonna happen though is we have some beautiful dogs in Pup
Yay,
Twist in
that's
honor of the one and only lady who lit up my life for 2.5 wonderful years. You're going to meet Yipsy. I
They
can't
wrote how
say
to
the name
pronounce it. I'll do
without
it.
laughing. Yipsy. Oh no, that's not right. I actually pronounced it wrong. You're gonna fix it in a
I
second. Who
will.
belongs to listener Kirsten. Tell us what Kirsten says.
Kirsten says, I love your show so much. Please enjoy these pics of my amazing silly pup, Ipsy. And Kirsten kindly included how to pronounce it for us. Soman still messed it up. She comes to my office to tell me I need to stop working and to take her for a walk, but other times she curls up on a blanket and it keeps me company. She doesn't usually wear clothes, but we make an exception on Christmas, and she's a notorious cuddler who will claim any blanket or soft spot on the floor as her own. The newest selection is my kid's beanbag chair, and the photos are just fantastic.
Oh my god, I'm obsessed
Ipsy,
with
you're so
Ipsy
cute.
Ipsy.
Soman, it's not hard.
Ipsy is such a good name, actually.
It is.
And I just love Ipsy's eyes.
Hi,
I love the
cutie.
Christmas sweater.
Now I'm
Oh,
gonna go
these
pet my
dogs
dog.
bring us so much joy. Where else can we be found? I've got my diary on Substack, every week diary of a novel on Tuesdays, and you can find me on Instagram at Somanc. Victoria, where can we find you?
You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and occasionally Substack.
And we'll be back, hopefully with Victoria's draft.
Oh my God, Soman.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Plot Twist is hosted by Victoria Aveyard and Soman Chainani. It's produced and edited by Liam Billiam. Our logos, art, and graphics are by Michael Blank. The music is by Thieves and Louis Adrian. Production support from June Sekia.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to Plot Twist wherever you listen to podcasts and drop us a review to let us know how we're doing. See you next Thursday.